All right, so today we have amazing Kenneth Flak and Rosanna Külli, and they're my friends and great artists. Both of them now living in Estonia slash Norway, and they have their own company called Rosanna and Flak. And through that, they do several amazing projects. But anyway, before I say further about them, I think it's great if they can, introduce themselves a little bit more. So one of you can take over, maybe Külli, if you want to start from your little pathway of your life.
Okay, I try to channel my life into a few sentences. So art and dance. I went to study something totally different, philology, Estonian language, and but then I changed my studies and continued as a choreographer, as a dancer, as a performer. And my journey started in Estonia, as I'm born here. But through interesting events, I ended up also getting education in Rotterdam Dance Academy in Holland, and then there a lot of things happened. I met Kenneth in Holland as well. Mm-hmm. And we continued the search together for what is artistry, what could contemporary dance be, making performances, connecting it to our life and sense of the experience of just living, and how to do it in a cool, playful, sustainable, meaningful way and navigate the system basically a bit longer than only teenage years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a small town in Kristiansand in the south of Norway, and I got into theater and dance relatively late. First went to theater school in Norway, studied theater directing, like proper Stanislavski style, character-based stuff. Then I moved to Holland to study physical theater for a while. And then I started getting dance jobs, like in projects. So I figured I needed to study a little bit of dance as well. So I skipped over to the School for Modern Dance also in Amsterdam. And after that, I've just been working as a performer, as a choreographer, and now also lately as a kind of more of a programmer, and music has also been a very important part throughout the whole journey. I've been dealing with music basically my whole life as well. So yeah.
Cool. And you also have some sort of position in Norway, right? In some sort of administrative position?
No, I had 2 years working in for the Arts Council in Norway, where I was heading the commission for dance there, so up until like last year and the year before that. So, but now I'm only making art.
That's great. And music. And music,
yes.
All right. So basically, we have just to put about Sanskar situation. Sanskar through me maybe a little bit before. So it's now we are doing a virtual dance festival, and with different purposes. Couple of purposes. One is that to create a space where everybody can share their work much easier, and in the sense, like, of course, the reality is reality. Virtuality is totally different. We are not comparing them. We are not saying virtuality is substitute of a reality, but rather it's a tool. And so we believe that, for example, someone who comes from a difficult part of the world, to show their work in mainstream or in contemporary artistic world, the main event space, it's almost impossible. It's just, you cannot get there. And for example, somebody from Africa or China, or it's very complicated process, bureaucratic process, you know it very well. So we realized that these kind of platform, like virtual platform, because it cuts down so many practical aspects. And it just goes like artist creation and performance direct. And we are creating a platform where people can just watch this artist much easier. So that's kind of like one aspect of it. And we are also trying to develop a kind of new, let's say, a funding method or like support system financially, where we can start creating certain mindset to help each other in a way, because every time we crave for a funding body to give us a lot of money, and some of us can succeed but some not, like some just never comes through. So we are trying to also work on something like that to see how we can create a new culture of supporting each other. And even could be just €1 or €5 you deposit, and then somebody gets something out of it. Maybe one day you can get something out of it. So we are also trying to do something like this. It's basically to kind of creating an alternative space, so that people can, share and continue their art much easier. I think I have explained to you before, just putting a context again. So we have this word, art keeps us going, one line. And like when you are going through in your life, both of you separately, together, because you also work together a lot, like when in a difficult moment in your life, it could be any kind of crisis, personally or because of the system, or maybe some shows, or when these kind of crisis happens for you personally, how does art keeps you going? And or does it help you or not? Or do you use it or not? You understand what I mean? It could be from a personal point of view, or it could be also general, your thoughts about it.
Should I say first, like it's I think myself, I have dissolved some borders quite solidly here. So I try to see the art fundamentally not separate from life, from any experience. So, and nowadays, also with the technology, new platforms, new possibilities to engage with the art and artists, or just sort of play in this context, it's even easier. So you don't have to follow this, you have to go only think of production house, getting money, but you are busy with experiencing the human experience and the life itself, and you are also expressing it. So you are verbalizing it, you are putting it into the context, you're expressing through different mediums. So even when there is a show, for example, I prefer to think about it that I'm just continuing my normal journey. So what I would do, time would just pass anyway in a day. And now there is suddenly it's 7 o'clock, but it's not really out of my life. And so in that way, when there is not a show, it's also not a difference. So it could also be artistic experience and the elevated sense of why we are here at all, or what's my purpose.
Yeah, we're just talking about this also, that I mean, there was this, like, if you think kind of from a more like evolutionary perspective also, I mean, there was some time, maybe like 200,000 years ago, when there was this shift in the culture. No, not a biological shift in because the human shape basically stayed the same, but then suddenly, like around 200,000 years or so ago, there was this enormous shift from the kind of basic tools that had stayed exactly the same for 1 million years, basically the same kind of flintstone spears and everything, into this kind of explosion of art and developing new ways of
self-reflection also.
Yeah, self-reflection. Suddenly, like, and of course, I have no idea what happened there at that point, but like somehow the archaeological record is showing suddenly all these like cave paintings and all these amazing things that just popped out. And there's something about consciousness and creativity, consciousness and art, human self-reflection, that is just so fundamentally intertwined in a way that just basically you can almost say that being human is to be an artist in a way. You can actually flip it around a little bit like that.
Like, it's interesting that you spoke about the specific time, because I had this talk with Andrea Ball. I don't know if you know her, from interview with her also, and she was saying that we are also kind of in a very interesting moment right now, that because there's a lot of things are changing. There's the whole virtual world, reality is becoming more prominent because of the crisis that we now everybody's online, and and in some ways this virtual world is really helping us a lot. Like now we are interviewing each other across time and space, no problem, and we can also get to know another culture, another language in a click of a button. So she's saying like, wow, it's probably a transition moment also. So do you feel like that? Do you feel like we are living in kind of an interesting moment in this sense?
Yeah.
Like because of course our experience is just this as long as we are old. So we are. I cannot really compare to the 1,000 years ago what it is then. I can only know it as a concept or have been reading about it. But one thing that seems still very clear is that we get so much more powerful as humans just because of the development, and all the curves are exponentially going up a lot. So the every decision we make, every action we make might have so much bigger consequences. So therefore we have to be, it's easy to blow everything up or go in a direction when you are just super powerful, but you are sort of increasingly blind because the complexity also goes up. So, and in this kind of the thought process, for me, the moment is really to come back somehow to myself and take a step back for a second and start to try to really to notice what game am I actually playing and what games are playing me, and what do I notice, and some tools that I have this kind of attention, where I pay attention, what triggers me, do I spread, what kind of info am I spreading, all these kind of things, and what triggers me is this kind of personal trauma, or I can vision some kind of a future where, for example, the creativity, art, and some sort of non-competitive state could be emerging more than now. Because
And Kenneth, would you like to add something in this context?
Yeah, actually, tying it a little bit back to your question about using art as in times of crisis, because I think there's something about linking back to a kind of a base reality in a way, like where there's this one guy, Daniel Smachtenberger, that we've been listening to a bit lately, who was talking about how what is meaningful is tied to what is real. So what you perceive as reality, that is what you will give meaning in some sense. And for me, that's a lot. It is like the kind of base reality is me, my body, my breath, my surroundings, what I can touch, feel, see, even also my thoughts, and my technology. Like all these things are kind of a base reality, and it's. Strangely enough, because that maybe is not quite what people normally would associate with art, but for me, I think art is a way to kind of touch on the base reality and to connect with base reality. So I wouldn't necessarily even picture art so much as like kind of flights of imagination or flights of fancy, although that's also very much there. But for me, it is so much, especially with considering that we're dealing with dance, which is all about our sensory experience, our physical presence, what we're doing right here, right now, that it is a way to kind of go into base reality, to investigate base reality at this very point that we're in, and also to try to expand maybe that definition of base reality and expand the moment in a way. Like I was. I think it's quite inspiring to hear about. There are like several different movements now about like you have this concept of deep time, of the long now, thick present. Like these kind of things where you can start to think about the present moment not just as a like a very thin slice of time that we're living in right now, but you can start to kind of pull things back hundreds of thousands of years and also forward to start to to try in some ways to experience that time, that space as real, as a real thing, not just as a kind of a theoretical construct that we are. It's difficult, of course. It's maybe even impossible for our particular hardware that we got, but I still think it's an important project.
I also want to maybe add, like, inspiring or thought from Daniel Smattenberger, that in one point, one of our jobs in a way is to just sort of let go of the concepts and experience the reality, and at the moment when we try to describe it, it's already gone in a way, the experience. So and it's not but it's still very worthy to try to verbalize, to try to create concepts and new objects of this experience, which we should not take as a reality, but but they are also changing the reality. So there are the tools, like between the pure being or the reality itself, the very complex phenomenon, and then our ability as humans to use what we have. We have our brain reflection, all these kind of things. So as artists, this is very good to do, because we have this position in a way, like, but actually it's a human job to do.
Yeah, interesting. All right, so there are a few things I heard now. One is that you spoke about there is not to have any competition or race, something like that. I think Külli was mentioning it. Now, just to take that word into another context, is that now just coming from, let's say, the parallel side of being an artist, especially you guys, that every project that you do, you have to write and apply for money, and you wait for the lottery to come through or not, and you do this since 2 decades or more, and you're still in the same space of this uncertainty. Yeah, and you both have enough experience and you have enough profile and portfolio of yourself that you should be actually having life much easier than going through this uncertain space every now and then. And let's say if you have invested these exact hours on a business, probably you would be a millionaire right now, because there is something is productive coming out of it. So having this uncertain space all the time before any project you go through, how do you feel about it? And what do you think could be an alternative for a situation like that?
Structural funding would be a good place to start, of course. I think there's this. I think you mentioned in we were listening to this interview of you actually yesterday, and there's something like you were mentioning this that stuck with me. That it's not like there's no money for art. It's just it's not a priority in the current situation. So for me, my kind of battle cry is always this thing that we. Money needs to be reprioritized towards art, but of course that is a political battle that has to be fought over a long time with a lot of people and so on and so forth. So but I think like more on a personal level, it's this kind of dealing with insecurity is I mean I think it just really has to try and develop like you have to have some kind of comfort with being in an uncertain space. I mean, this is the primary thing, like as a base level. Like if you're not comfortable with insecurity, then you're gonna have a real hard time. But the other thing is you can also kind of cultivate that, and then of course, like there's something about all this kind of application writing, and that can also have an effect of sharpening your thinking. Like it forces you to kind of keep conceptualizing, keep verbalizing, keep digging into the themes. It certainly keeps you from being lazy and entitled, that's for sure.
And practicing your other mediums, like your verbalization skills, your writing, everything like this. But the kind of the interesting part for me is that it kind of looks like when you say structural funding, that this is some kind of a heaven or a stability. But I don't think the people that actually have had or have right now a structural funding even agree with this. So it's something that you want to, or you kind of think that might be the answer, but the sort of the insecurity to become friends with it somehow is again a fundamental condition of experience of life, and the play between life and death. So you don't know when, and you don't, and the entitlement that can come with expecting the feeling like, yeah, I deserve tomorrow even. I deserve my art deserves to be seen, everything like this, but also I deserve to live till 100 years. So all these kind of things, the reality is quite honest in the freelance scene, but also it's honest to strive towards some more stability. Like you try put stuff out there, but the reality again is this: it happens or not, but you can you can create it as a performance or like as a structure.
Yeah, and I think it's really about this thing that insecurity is kind of also a fundamental condition, not just for artists but for everybody, basically. So for some more than others, and also in different time scales, like, okay, like we have a friend who's a scientist who gets funding for 3 years, and for him that's a project, and it's really insecure feeling. Like if we get 3 months of funding, that's like awesome. But I'm always very kind of what can happen sometimes is that people get into this thing of romanticizing the insecurity as well, and this is a dangerous trap. I feel the fact that we are living in an insecure time does not necessarily mean that we should be living in an insecure time as well, and it does not necessarily generate a lot of creativity necessarily. So you can deal with it creatively, but it's not necessarily, so.
Maybe not to romanticize like that. This is the goal in itself. Like
the starving artist meme is not necessarily a productive meme. I mean, if you're really hungry, then you just want to eat. You don't want to paint.
No, so that's like, to take that what you said at the end. Like, does your art get affected by this norm? Do you think the fact of this uncertainty of money, and then you have to write specific language? Sometimes you have to mold the concepts that you have to fit into some context. Does it affect your freedom of your creativity, your choices creatively?
Maybe again it's the same thing that we don't really know, like, because we don't have a parallel reality with a lot of safety, so it's fine for us. Like, I mean, we are still going, and that's beautiful. Actually, I'm grateful. One thing that I was thinking about this Corona, my friend, she said something like, "Now finally the world matches my inner crazy," and then it made me just think that this kind of, okay, now it's somehow collective uncertainty, but individual level, like how much we go through these things through as a dancers, even just getting older, fact of getting older. Having some injury, losing funding, losing your inspiration or whatever, and then needing to get some new job or something, but still doesn't want to let go. Or like for us, very amazing thing, we got a child. So now we were very mobile, going from festival to festival, very nice to go together. But with a 3-year-old child now, it's the world is so much more complex, and the way to organize this. But we still want to keep going. So so the uncertainty again, like in the individual level, is so now. Yeah, some gigs, something are cancelled. Okay, or has happened before, or some kind of things like this. So
cool. So, all right. So I come for the next part, which is the now you keep us going. So what does it mean is that we come from from Sanskar, we think like the whole project is all about how can we reach out to certain people and try to fill in the gaps and of supporting people. For example, we Külli spoke about not to have a race, or we say like somehow there is this, I would not call it hierarchy, but there a certain community has been further in contemporary art because their sensibility has been there since many decades, so they are further, and the some is just new. So in order for us to all arrive to equal places, we are also trying to go to the place that lacks support and try to see how we can use projects collectively that everybody's getting supported, but also help the other person. So coming back to this this line, now you keep us going. In your life, if you meet somebody who is going through a crisis, could be artistically or financially or any ways, and is there something that you do or you tell them that this you could do, like a pill, like a helping suggestion, or do you also help out, do you also reach out help, for example?
There's actually, like, just recently a friend of mine who was like, after the midsummer night parties, he just called me like, I need to get in shape. I've been sitting on my ass for 20 years now, and I need to get moving. So and of course, like for me, this is like, no, it's easy to get moving somehow, but for for some people it's really, really hard. So yeah, so I could so this was kind of a thing that it's easy to help out with. Like you can always do that. And for me, like I really believe in the idea of paying forward. I think this is super important. We in our like kind of digital work, for example, or the programming that we're doing is fully based on open source material, where it's just which is a whole giant ecosystem of operating systems and programs and software and drivers and so on and so forth that has been developed on a voluntary basis by people to help each other out. Like you you make the stuff that you need for yourself, and then you share it with the community. They continue developing it, feeding it back to you. So there's this so our entire like the music that we make, the sensor technology that we use, all this stuff has been developed on a kind of pay forward basis. That's not to say that people don't get paid for doing it also, like, which is another kind of a common misconception. Like, people make livings out of open source stuff as well, but it's a different kind of ethos of sharing the intellectual work, sharing the ideas with the community that you can then and everybody benefits from that. Everybody benefits from this boost of creativity and ideas being sharpened and developed in the open.
This you keep me going. I actually try to use it a couple of different ways. For example, when I look at you now and us here, then I could say, like, Rakesh, you give me hope. Because you are sort of doing something, putting into action this kind of sense or experience that we are so fundamentally connected anyway. And we want to, support or actually even make it a little bit more tangible, visible, this connected space that we are. There is no islands in this world, and there are a lot of now through the technology, our own empowerment, we are in this place where the climate, the nuclear weapons, and the technological capacities are getting pretty dangerous in a way, like so, and I think it's really important that somehow we realize that the universe is fundamentally relational. So there is this idea of being part of a system, not being the system. In a way, you are also the system. So, but then you wouldn't want to be careless. You would want to grow your care, the depth of your care. So this is when I see, sometimes I'm getting touched by people just because they express their experience with action that actually can transform things. So
yeah, but I think it's also because it comes from the same experience of you being transformed by many people also, you know.
Yep.
One or the other way, we are all, because we somehow go to an institution, we call it school, or we go to workshops, but if you take out all these norms, the titles that we put, then it just goes to this idea of just somebody's coming to influence me. Actually, I am influencing somebody else. It's always there. It's just that we look at it in a different bubble, different cover. And but now the part that you brought my name, I have to mention my team also for that. I have to give credit to everybody, because we are 9 people working like on this topic. But thank you for that. But I want to go to the last part, which is actually, you brought already, Kenneth, with the technology. You both involved with technology a lot. Me being also in your work, that you really work with sound sensors, and so it's along that line. There is this dilemma with virtual. There is this resistance. There is also a community. They're like, oh, we don't want to bring art also into the virtual world, and we don't believe in it. The reality is reality. But our standpoint is that we are not comparing reality versus virtuality. We're just using it as a tool, and to make our voice bigger. Why not, right? And also we realize, you know, there is this. We are spending so many hours online, but still we are like nag about it in a way. Oh, but there's so much, you know, garbage out there. But then I say, well, we put garbage there. You can also put art in there. You can also put something else in there, so people can, you know, access different kind of beauties. So hence we started this project. How can we use it? But what is your point of view, from your personal point of view, the fact that we are all in a transition mode? And for example, in the corona time, everything stopped. We all were online. They say, the scientists were saying, actually, apparently the ozone was starting to fix itself. You know, this is something that we read. So we are in a very important moment in that sense, like the technology versus virtuality. And where is your stand? What do you think about this idea? And yeah.
For me, I think we're very much thinking about this. We don't even make too much of a distinction between reality and virtuality, in a sense. I mean, it's all real. Whatever you do, it's real. And the main difference between virtual reality and physical reality somehow is just it's a question of bandwidth, let's say, in technical terms, like how much information is there. So with virtual reality, you get much less bandwidth, basically much less information, funny enough, because that's somehow like a lot of the talk has been about there's so much information out there, but actually you get much more information from the physical world. But for me, my personal feeling is somehow that like it's in these times, like for me, I've had really great experiences online, like with there's been a lot of very interesting collaborations actually popping up online, and new platforms coming up as well, which have been really, really rich. So I wouldn't ever really want to limit myself and into like, okay, I only want to use base reality. I think what's more important is more the idea, like since there are so many options out there online, it's much more important just to train yourself into selecting the right things, basically. So okay, maybe you know, like select for don't spend 5 hours a day on Facebook. Rather target the websites that you know are interesting for you. You know, like, so it's basically, it's a little bit like, I mean, you don't in physical reality, you don't go to the garbage heap to lie around and look for food. You know, you go to the shop because it's much better stuff there. You know, so cyberspace is like any other space. It's full of everything basically. So and if you go to the trash, then that's what you get also. So it's not just about putting trash there, but it's like seeking trash. The other thing is that you, of course, in cyberspace, you are much more prone to be hijacked by various sites in a way. So like Facebook, YouTube, they're all optimizing for grabbing your attention and getting you to clicking on the next thing, basically. And just by feeding you stuff that is kind of a quick fix, easy, like little dopamine triggers that get you like, oh, another like, yeah. So it keeps you hooked, it keeps you going. So so there it becomes really quite important, this idea of learning to like knowing yourself, basically, to understand what's going on. And if there's this kind of a blanket denial of technology, it's not going to get you anywhere, because then you're actually much more vulnerable in a sense, because you don't know what's going on. But if you are more, become aware, become conscious about what's actually happening, what are the algorithms that work around there, what kind of information is being collected, you know, to become much more selective about how you use internet, the same way as you're very selective about what you eat. You know, like you just don't just stuff your face with it. You know, you select the good things. So I think instead of being critical towards internet and virtual reality as such, it's really about finding ways to deal with it in a good way.
As a reality.
As a reality, yeah.
So I would actually say a few things about this kind of terms, like what it triggers in me, the reality and virtual reality, if opposed. So for me, the reality contains the virtual reality plus physical reality plus anything else. And the technology itself, like for me, and we've been working with this kind of idea or premise somehow, that the technology could be seen as a behavior, as just a way how information travels. These are ways to change something, to influence the reality in a way. So like if I'm thinking that now, then one way is to touch somebody, information travels. Then the second way, like when I say something, like it goes further. When I write a book, it can go quite far, and without me being present at all. And now with the phone, with the video, the same. Actually, book and video is not that different, even in that way. But of course, you can have a moving picture and blah, blah, blah. So this kind of differences. And it will continue becoming crazier, or like crazier for us, maybe, to call it just a behavior. But fundamentally, so I try to train myself not to see technology as some blinking boxes and objects, but more as action, not as a noun, but verb, almost like technology, a way of doing something. So, and that's why, yeah, it's still mine.
Yeah. Actually, it was in Michel Foucault, it's a French philosopher who was writing in what was that, the 80s, 70s, 80s, so he wrote the book History of Sexuality, where he was starting to develop this whole idea of technologies of the self, basically. So, and he really defines technologies as just kind of the procedures of how do you operate on yourself. So you could even say, like, you know, systems of law is a technology. Language is a technology. Books are technologies. Dance technique is a technology. Yeah. Also, very much so. Choreographical approaches are technologies. So it's basically, I would say, it's like we think about it, it's any kind of more or less systematic approach of getting stuff done in a way. You could call it technology.
Wow, great.
Yep.
Super. No, but it's really interesting, because like how you gave this a little more in-depth and different way of looking at this norm of technology. It all makes sense, like talking about like clicking, every time you click something, you get these triggers. And you spoke about the fact when you were speaking, I had this idea, like there is a difference also. For example, we used to have TV where it's kind of like TV is there, I'm here, I'm taking information. But whereas now, if you look at it, I can actually change the reality that I'm living through this virtuality, in the sense of I can actually make my life, the real life, affected by diving into the virtual world. So this also changed a lot. It's kind of become an extension of your life, real life. That's something that I want to carry with what you guys said. So before we finish, is there is anything else that you wish to say apart from our conversation? It could be anything, from being as an artist, a normal human being, or any thoughts that you want to share.
I just say something very, again, like something personal that I'm believing or interested right now in this, and it kind of has to do with this plurality of information and how to select, how to make sense of it all, and this idea of sense making in general. So like how to deal with it. Actually, again, yesterday I listened to your interview, and you said in the end that also the same, that it's a choice actually what you contribute. It's not like you just passively consume and have to take it all. So you almost train what do you notice. At first you notice what you notice automatically. It's not like you control it all, but you train to focus in a certain places, and that already changes something. And then you can also train to put out things that have some real meaning for you, at least, and not just do another thing in a way.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you for your amazing time. So, well, thanks behalf of Sanskar also. And actually, we're looking forward to see also what you're going to present. Now, you're making something for us. That's great. We're really excited. And yeah, that's it. And I will talk to you later, I guess.
Yes.
Hopefully soon. Yes.